that being said, the federal government has $7.5 billion they're looking to invest. And as you said, they're at the high level. They're looking at it from a national perspective. But we have to be a little more specific about where that money is going, because you're in Minneapolis, I'm in Virginia. Our demand for charging is going to be very different than from California, Florida, Washington, Oregon. So how do we start figuring out how we can allocate the resources most effectively to build the infrastructure where it's most needed?
Yeah. So that gets into the crux of the problem, right? You have a lopsided demand curve on the U.S. market as a whole. It looks nice and neat and clean, and it's going to grow over time. But when you look at it on a regional basis or a state-by-state basis, it gets quite lopsided quite quickly. I don't need to tell most of the audience that California is going to be the highest demanded state across the board. They already are. They've got leadership in terms of the sales volume and also in terms of the infrastructure. But to put some numbers to this, we see that nationwide we're expecting about 18 million EVs to be on the road by 2030. Okay, in the U.S. alone. And to support this volume of vehicle, we estimate we need to have about 1.8 to 1.9 million chargers in the ground and in operation by that same time.
1.8, 1.9 million, that's a lot different than the 500,000 the federal government wants to put in.
Right. Now, the 500,000 is kind of that investment case, right? We believe that there needs to be a combination of level 2 and level 3 chargers that will really extend the infrastructure capabilities across the nation. We know that there's been a heavy influence thus far on level 2 charging in urban and suburban areas, and a pretty significant focus on level 3 charging in highway intersections and highway interchange opportunities. So being able to understand how that's going to be mapped out nationwide is a really, really important thing to consider. I've already mentioned California stands alone as the top priority. They already have high volume expectations and their growth is going to keep going. But what's really interesting is that just underneath California, we have kind of a level 2 priority of states like Texas, states like Florida, New York, and New Jersey. These are states that are going to have a rapid amount of expansion of these types of vehicles in the coming 5 to 6 years. And their infrastructure is still kind of playing catch up. In parts of Texas, we've seen the infrastructure build out in the last 2 years to be about 80 to 90% of its entire stock is less than 2 years old. Whereas in California, you already have a lot of charging stations that are being pulled out of the ground to get replaced with new ones because they've been in operation for quite some time. So it comes down to that interplay between where the demand is needed today versus where it's going to be needed in the future.